Hello, welcome back. I'm Miniature Mike, and we're going to be continuing our series for doing tier lists for all the main base sets for Star Wars miniatures. And so we've actually come pretty far. We're over halfway, and we've actually just finished the last set of 60, which was Knights of the Republic. If you haven't checked that one out, please check it out. I think I released it a few days ago, and there's a lot of really cool characters in that set and a lot to talk about. The next sets from here on out going to be shorter videos since these are only 40 characters each. A couple of duplicates in there, so I just kind of weeded those out. But nonetheless, they're still pretty cool sets, really interesting ones, and this is also where Star Wars Miniatures switched over to using white cards instead. So it's kind of a fun thing that you'll notice. I do prefer the old card look to the new one, but it's just kind of my personal preference. This is Clone Wars we're doing, based on the TV show, probably like the first season or so. And I also mixed in a couple characters too from some of the Clone Wars sets and like the mini Clone Wars sets of 2, and what was it? The Clone Wars battles as well. That's something that gets mixed in there. Tried to mix those in as well as I could, but sometimes I think this will probably be good enough. And sometimes I couldn't find cards to them, so I just used Blue Milk to just find the stats that way, and that's pretty much the best way to do it. So I noticed I have not added F tier, although I don't really use F tier that much anyway. So I'll add it for good measure. Yeah, let's go over here and do that. And we'll do blue as usual. Okay, let's get right into it. It's the IG Lancer droid from the Clone Wars Battles special pack. It's interesting. It's very similar to some of the other things we've seen, namely the speeders. It's actually like almost the same as the other speeders, to be honest with you. It just costs about the same, a little bit better attack. I don't think these things are particularly remarkable or anything, but again, you can make them pretty cool with the right combinations. But not exactly my cup of tea, so I think C tier is just fine for these. Anakin Skywalker Jedi. So I'm kind of a big fan of this guy. He's got solid stats, only costs 29, which is about appropriate for 29. And then his powers are just really well-rounded, really nice. I mean, he's got, unique melee double as usual, deadly attack, so it's nice to throw it in there. And then Gemso style is definitely a solid thing. It's kind of, built-in lightsaber riposte. And then his force powers of having, four force points, that's enough to probably get through, a short match. And then he has Assault, which is, solid for, moving and attacking. And then Block, which is very helpful for Gemso style. If Gemso style doesn't work, then, you can potentially block it, which is nice. Or you can do both, because, Gemso style works, you still got to block it. But you can do damage back, which is kind of fun. So I think this guy's awesome. I don't know where to put him, though, because on my original tier list, I had him in B tier, but I almost don't feel like... I think he's better. I think he's high B tier, like top of B tier. I definitely think he's better than the Anakin from Revenge of the Sith, who I think I did like a low B tier. So this guy's definitely a high B tier. Doesn't knock the socks off, but like for a cheap melee piece, he will do the trick. General Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh yes, the infamous. So this guy's S tier. There's no debate about that. I think a lot of people who do official tournaments and things like that, I've never done one, but I hear he's pretty banned. And I've played against this guy and with this guy in casual games, and it's just not fair. It's so stupid. Even if you say mix this guy with let's see, who was it? Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn. Then he's basically busted at that point. But his stats for 55, his stats are, maybe not 55 stats, but they're fine. They're good stats, but not quite for 55. But then, he's got, Metal, which is incredible with Soresu style mastery. He's got double attack. His force powers are great. He's fast. He can use force power twice, which is, again, makes him impossible to damage. So with Soresu style, when hit by an attack, this character takes no damage with a save of 11. The fact that that's so strong. That's just, you get attacked, cancel it. If you miss the cancel, you do it again with Metal. You got it. So if this guy has a lot of force points, you basically can't kill him. He's almost untouchable. And he's fast too, if he needs to get out. And he has good force power. This is a good offensive force power. And his commander effect is phenomenal. Each follower gets bonus attack, bonus defense, as long as it has an ally within 6 squares, which is so easy to do. Instead of it being ranged 6 squares from this character, you just have people together in groups, and then they're super strong. This is amazing for so many reasons. So he's S tier. I think this guy is the most broken character in the game, probably. So yeah, not fun to play against. I think with Saresu style mastery, when they made this force power in the first place, or this special power, because Mikashi is the same fit, not the same thing, but it's like built-in lightsaber block. They should have just done it for like deflection instead. So maybe like, for Saresu style, it's this character takes no damage. This guy is like if it's a ranged attack, then he takes no damage with a save of 11 rather than just all attacks. So he has a weakness to melee, but they didn't do that. And mastery could have been like built-in reflect or something. I don't know. I'm not a fan of this power. I think it's awful. It's bad for the game. Should have been redesigned, but it is what it is. Darth Sidious hologram. This guy is a high. So I struggle with him a little bit. So allied characters within 6 squares gain Force Renewal 1. Pretty much most of the powerful Sith Lords you're going to use already have Force Renewal, so it's like not awesome. But it's allied characters, though, which is actually insane. So allied characters within 6 squares gain Force Renewal 1. So I'm pretty sure, like, even if I have to double check, I don't know the rule on this. So, like, if you don't have a Force rating, then does this mean you gain a Force rating and gain Force Renewal 1? Or does this only apply to people with Force ratings? I'm not sure. Either way, I think it's still very effective. He's only 11 points, can be easily taken out. Basically, he's like a living version of a Force Ghost, but it's even more widespread than that. So I'm going to put him top of B tier, just above Anakin. I think that's the only thing that holds him back for me is, like, it is a great Force power, but, like, it's just kind of a battery for Force. But the Sith don't really need it so much. A couple characters do, but it's cool. It's way cool, but I think top of B tier is just fine. Ahsoka Tano, so I think she's not all that great, honestly. I think the other Ahsoka is much better in Galaxy at War set. So she costs 20. Her stats are fine. Like, she has good defense at least, and her attack's miserable. So you really need to pair her with Anakin, if you want her to be effective. And then her powers, they don't get excited about either. Like, yeah, double attack's fine, but you're not going to hit anything anyway, unless you're with Anakin. Flurry attack it's all right, You can't complain about that. It's always nice to have something like that. And then impulsive sweep. I hate the impulsive powers. I think they're just way too... they don't happen very often. When they do happen, people can plan against them, and they're not great. And then synergy, yes, you have to use her with Anakin, or else she's pretty much useless, in my opinion. Much better options if that's the case. And even kind of constrains you to use an Anakin, so that can be a little tricky sometimes, but it works. And then lightsaber deflect. It's a good Force power to help against range attacks, and she already has good defense, so she is good against, I guess you could say, like the ranged, like the gun people, the non-melee people. But I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan of her, and she's conditional on being good with Anakin, which also I don't feel like is very helpful either, so I think she's C tier. I'd put her even below the Lancer droid. I think Lancer droid, you get a little more fun with that thing than you can with Ahsoka, so unfortunately, I don't think she's that good. Anakin Skywalker, champion of Nelvon. So he, in my opinion, is pretty scary and kind of underrated, to be honest. When I was much, much younger, I didn't think he was all that cool. But if you take a look at what he has going for him, it's pretty strong. So he got about 50, and his stats definitely aren't a 50s stats for sure. But for melee purposes, this guy is just a nightmare to defeat. So what he's got going for him is he has twin instead of double, which means that when he uses Gemso style, he gets to attack twice, which is kind of freaky. So if someone hits him, then you can block it, and if you block it, there is no Gemso style, then there is no attack. But if you don't end up blocking it, then Gemso style can activate, and if you're successful, you can make 2 attacks against that person. So basically, like, you move up and attack someone, you do twin attack, that's, 2 attacks, and then they attack you back. And if your Gemso style succeeds, which it can, probably with like use a force point if you miss the roll, that's 2 more attacks, then it's your turn, you attack twice. So it's just like, this guy is just a nightmare when it comes to melee fighting, just a total nightmare. And on top of it, he has defense for melee with block, which is awesome if Gemso style doesn't work out, or depending on how you want to play it. And then having grip is helpful. It's not amazing, but it is nice to be able to have that little range attack if you need to use it for any particular reason. So that guaranteed damage. So I think he's A tier, not S tier, because he has his weaknesses, but this guy is definitely a nightmare at melee in melee situations. So Count Dooku of Sereno, he is also A tier. I do prefer personally Darth Tyrannus Legacy of the Dark Side, or Legacy of the Force, I think that's what it is. I do prefer him over this one, but this guy is very close second, kind of splitting hairs. Fantastic stats, best stats you can get. This is like the Clone Strike stats. And then you have, the usual powers. You have Makashi Mastery, which is basically just built-in block with a couple other, hidden features like countering other styles that you'll see occasionally. And to balance him out, which I do like that he's balanced, he has limited force, and he does have good powers for force. So, he has Riposte in case Makashi doesn't work. That's great. And then he has Force Lightning 2, which you could use up to 2 times, which is a very solid, probably one of the best, just like, short range, guaranteed force power for damage. So I think he's awesome. I think this guy's fantastic. I think I do prefer just how scary this guy is in melee, even over him. Personally, because he has renewal, and then having all those, having Gemso style is great. And if you know, Gemso style is not countered by this, so that is kind of like pretty good in that situation. So he's pretty good. Doesn't necessarily do a lot of damage, but he's very sturdy at melee, and I think he's a very good option. And against Skywalker on stat, one of those very wacky, unique characters. So for 35 points, he's a strafe attacker with twin attack, and he has deflect. So the thing I really like about this guy is, though he's not fast, he does have enough hit points to kind of stay alive. He does have weak attack, unfortunately, so that's something you'll have to figure out, maybe find a way to buff it somehow. So it's not great attack, but at least you can cover a lot of ground and make a lot of attacks, which could be really powerful. And so I think this guy's pretty fun. I think in my opinion, I think he's probably solidly, I think I'd probably solidly put him in B tier. Just because he's very one-dimensional. He's very specific to what he does. I think I prefer just kind of his versatility above what he can do. But I mean, for 35 points, this is probably the best strafe attacking character in the game. And he can defend himself, at least against ranged attacks. So I'm going to put him up just in B tier. So definitely solid. ARC Trooper Sniper. So these guys are pretty sweet. They have pretty much all the power you'd want from a shooter. Like, this is just kind of a quintessential great sniper. I think I put him a little too high in my original ranking. I put him in A tier. Maybe they deserve A tier. But for 16 points, you're getting someone with decent defense, solid attack. And then they have sniper and accurate and deadeye. So if they just are sitting still, they can just pinpoint damage at 30. And because they're troopers, they can be upgraded with all sorts of upgrades, which is fantastic and easy. So I think these guys, I'm going to put them top of A tier. I don't know if I'm going to do A tier just yet. We'll see. Actually, I might stick them in A tier, honestly. I just think these guys are so good. They're very similar to Clone Commando Sev. I think Sev might be just a hair better because he has stealth, but he's a little bit more expensive. But they're very, very, very similar. I might even put him down to B tier. I don't know. I'll put him high B tier for now, but a great, great clone trooper that you want to be using. So Barisafi Jedi Knight, much better than the other Barisafi. So for 30 points, her stats are a little underwhelming-ish. They're not terrible, but they are definitely a little underwhelming. But it's made up for by having synergy with Luminara. So if you compare these two together, she's much better. 23 defense, 13 attack. That's pretty scary. And the cool thing with her is that she has Force Renewal. She has a good Force Heal. And then she has Deflect as well for that extra defense when it comes to range. So she's good at range attacks. And because she can heal, she can be used as a good support piece to help like Luminara or even other people too. So I think she's definitely a solid character. Not like overwhelmingly amazing because she does rely on Luminara or else she's a little underpowered. But definitely solid. I'm going to put her, let's see, where is she? I'm going to put her right above Anakin. I think especially because she has that potential to be very powerful with Luminara. I think she deserves a spot just above him. And even without him, even without her, she can do some good stuff too. So I think I'm going to put her just above Anakin, just a little bit. That might not be fair to Anakin, but we'll see. Captain Rex. So here's our first S tier. This guy is He actually is a little broken, to be honest with you, too. I think he's like just borderline not broken, but he actually is. I think to fix this guy, they should have given him 10 damage, and remove penetration 10. He doesn't need penetration 10. Then I think 33 points is still amazing for what you're getting. But he's 70, 16, 12, very high attack, and then 20, which is pretty ridiculous. He's got double, twin, and greater mobile, so he's going to be just shooting everything up like crazy. So much damage, hard to hit him, and penetration 10. So I guess this guy can wreck enemy stuff, like enemy heavy equipment, mounted weapon stuff, pretty much. Which is this is amazing. And then allied characters with order 66 within 6 squares gain greater mobile attack. So that means a lot because I know the 501st Clone Troopers in this set, they have double attack. The repeating blaster cannon guy is quadruple attack. There's a lot of people who this can benefit. It's pretty scary, especially if you have someone giving extra attack, and then you can give that. This thing's ridiculous. So I think he's clearly S tier. He's not quite as broken, but he really is broken. I think to balance him, what should have been done is he should have done 10 damage. He can keep the attack. He should have done 10 damage because that's still 40 very high damage, and he's still giving out a fantastic commander effect. So he's S tier. I think he's a really cool character, but it just kind of bothers me a little how much power creep he has going on, but it is what it is. Very powerful. Clone Trooper on Gilligrub. This guy is B tier. The reason I like this guy a lot is even though he costs 24 points, his raw stats are just crazy. He's got some crazy raw stats. I am going to put him just below Anakin, though. A low B tier, because he's an Order 66 guy. You have all sorts of commanders that can buff this guy, do all sorts of amazing things. You can give this guy all sorts of cool powers, depending on who you mix him with. So he's kind of a blank slate with great powers. So he has lots of damage, good attack, decent defense, solid defense, I should say, and then tons of hit points. So you can have a lot of fun with these things if you pair them up with the right characters. Commander Grease also really, really nice. I'm going to put him probably towards the top of B tier. He actually might be low A tier in some case. We'll see. So he has, for 20 points, this is the same as some of the older Clone Trooper commanders from Champions of the Force. And his stats are just better. He's got 60 hit points, 14 defense, which is pretty standard for these guys. 11 attack, which is pretty high, and then 30 damage, very good. He has no abilities, so there is that. And then his commander effect is allied characters. Allied characters, so everyone on your team is basically treated as having the same name for squad powers, which is pretty powerful. And then your followers that are within 6 squares, they gain squad assault. So you can basically give squad assault to everybody on your team, essentially, and just kind of boost that attack. So I think he's pretty scary. I think top of B tier is probably most appropriate for him. I'm gonna do this. The only reason I don't like him as much as some of the other commanders is just because he has no special ability, and his commander effect is good, but it's just kind of one thing. It's everybody gets +4 attack, but I think he has amazing stats. He's got the commander effect is very solid. It's definitely not overpowered or anything like that. It is nice, and there's other things that the squad can be helpful for as well. So I think the very top of B tier is pretty good in my opinion. I think he's pretty solid. But because of that, I'm going to bump these guys up to A tier. I think they're pretty nice, and they're very easy to kind of make improved too. That's just my opinion. Maybe they should be B tier. Elite Clone Trooper Commander. So these guys are all right. I like them a little bit more than the just regular Clone Trooper Commanders. They have a little bit better stats, better survivability, and then this is a better power in my opinion. Clone Troopers tend to have bad defense, so you're definitely helping out something they're weak with, and that's good. That's really good to help the Clone Troopers just be a little bit more survivability. So because of that, I'm going to drop this in. I'm going to do top of C tier. And the reason I'm doing top of C tier is it is great, it's a good thing, but there's other things you can do. And C tier isn't bad. It's just kind of not quite up there with some of these things. I think he's it's solid, but maybe not too crazy. So I like these guys. They can be good in your squad, but I'm not going nuts over them. Clone Trooper Grenadier is a very similar pose. Again, these guys are also C tier, although I'm going to drop them just below the Lancer. And they're good. They can shoot just like a Clone Trooper, and they can throw some solid grenades, which are helpful too. To activate people. And then I think there are a couple characters that can maybe buff the grenades as well. Actually, no, I don't think Oddball does that. So these guys are fine, but again, I'm probably not going to put them in my squad because I don't like grenades 10 very much at all. Not a fan of grenades 10. If you're going to do grenades, it needs to be have more power than that. Galactic Marine. So these guys, I used to be crazy about them, but the more I look at them, the more they really kind of underwhelm for 13. So they do have solid attack, just kind of regular old stats. If you look at the Elite Clone Trooper, these guys actually are worse, and they cost more. The Elite Stormtrooper, but these guys are the Elite Clone Trooper, basically. But they have Squad Assault. So these guys are really made much better when they're with Commander Bakara because you can use Squad Assault, you can get that extra attack. However, I think they look amazing. I really like the sculpt on these. I've always thought these were the coolest looking Clone Troopers. But the more I think about it, the more I'm going to have to drop at the very, very bottom of B tier. They're not like C tier in my opinion, just because they're meant for Bakara. Bakara can use them very well and make me very good with him. But just kind of on their own, they're kind of underpowered. General Ayla Secura, so she's really good. So a couple of things with her you have going on here is her stats for a 50 are not a 50. So her stats are definitely a little toned down for someone who has less powers. She's got double, which is great. She has cunning, which can be really great in certain circumstances. That's great. Her commander effect is awesome. So her commander effect paired with Captain Rex is so strong because she gives all your allied characters double attack. And that has so many implications for a Clone Trooper squad. So fantastic commander effect, especially when you mix it with clones. And it's allies with Order 66, so that's even scarier. And her first powers are also pretty good. You can use Cloaked to basically stay invisible. And then when necessary, you can use Deflect, if you need it. But great survivability. That's why she's a 50. She can definitely do her damage when she needs to. And then her commander effect to help clones out is pretty awesome. So she's definitely, in my opinion, firm A tier. And I'm going to put her... Let's see, where is her mini? I'm going to put her on the top of A tier. I think that's where she belongs. She's so good. So good. And she's only a rare, too. So I'm a big fan. Heavy Clone Trooper. This guy I'm not a fan of people with heavy weapon, typically. Even though he has good attack and does the 30 damage. And he has 20 hit points, so not too bad. But definitely better than a Seleucamai Trooper, for sure. But I'm not crazy about these. The Mon Calamari Knight. These guys, in my opinion, are good enough to warrant C tier. However, again, they don't really excite me. They cost 14, and they have amazing defense, but they're not going to hit anything, unfortunately. So I feel like they're not too bad to knock out. So they definitely don't get me very excited at all, unfortunately. But I do like the high defense, so that's something you got to keep in mind when you do want to use them. I'll put them just below Ahsoka, I think. I think I should be more fair to Ahsoka, do something like that. Oddball is pretty cool. However, the more I look at him, the more maybe he's not quite as awesome as I thought he was. But you got to think about a few things here. So he has the typical things you'd see for a commander, but he only does 10 damage. And that's because it's funny, he has penetration 20, so it's kind of a useless commander effect, to be honest, in my opinion. It's like, oh, you can do 10 damage against the AT-AT Walker, woohoo. But he has grenades 20. And the cool thing is this guy gives pilots penetration 20 and grenades 20, and it's allied characters. So you can bring in, pilots from Fringe. They can get some cool buffs. Having grenades 20 can be pretty fun. And it applies to a couple characters on the Republic team too. So I think he's good. I'm going to definitely put him bottom, very bottom of B tier. But the problem I do have with him, though, ultimately is this commander effect doesn't apply to too many people, and you're giving out a good power. Don't get me wrong about that. But it's when you gotta, just kind of watch. He doesn't do very much damage on his own. He costs 17, So like he's very tricky to judge, it really is. But I'm gonna say bottom of B tier and call it good. Padme Amidala, she's pretty solid. So for 23 points, you get someone with mobile and twin. She's not going to do a lot of damage, but she's sturdy and can hold it up. Basically, every Padme is the same. They all have mobile attack. They all have stats like this. And they usually have some kind of nice commander effect. So hers is at the end of this character's turn. When unique follower within 6 squares can make an immediate attack at +4 bonus. So if you mix her kind of as like a complementary piece to a unique character on your squad, she can be pretty good, pretty helpful. So she's not an A tier character, but I'm gonna put her maybe just above Barris. Yeah, I think that's just fine. I know Barris obviously is probably better. I don't know, just in raw power, but I really like the mobility, being able to help a little bit, and then being able to complement a unique character. Very strong, so pretty cool there. Star Corps Trooper. So I am extremely biased towards these characters. I think these are so awesome. They're kind of expensive-ish for 15, so one of the slightly more pricey clone troopers. Really good stats for a clone trooper. Like they have enough hit points to survive an attack, which is saying something for a clone. And then they just have such great, advantageous cover. So these guys can take cover for 23 defense, which is awesome. And then people definitely don't want to be making attacks of opportunity around these, which is a good deterrence for people who get too close. And then having squad firepower is great, so that if you have a lot of these guys together, their damage is increased to 30, and that's just mixing with other commanders that can be pretty deadly. And then stable footing. This one isn't huge, but it is nice that if you have these situations, they can move around faster. I'm going to put them just above the ARC Trooper Sniper. These are some of my favorite clone troopers in the entire game. So much fun. You can do some great things. Just a couple of fun commander effects, and these guys are, walking circles around you. Wookiee Scoundrel. So these guys are fine. I'm not a big fan of them, honestly. For 11, you're getting a guy with stealth, which is nice, and cunning attack, so you can get a stealth shooter that does 10 plus 10, 30. Not bad. But other than that, it's kind of meh. So I think these guys, for me, are just kind of a C tier unit. That might be too harsh because they do have stealth and cunning attack, but I'll put them just below Ahsoka. Not bad, but if you want to put them in your squad, go for it. I prefer to have my Wookiees, have things like momentum and cleave, but Yoda on Kaibuck. So he is pretty crazy if you put all the things together. So what you have with this guy is for 50 points, you have incredible hit points, great stats. The defense is a little low to help balance him out. You got good speed, you have galloping attacks, so this guy can just run around and just wipe everybody out. He attacks twice, +4 attack. It's really strong power, better than strafe attack. And then his force powers, he's limited force powers, and so if you need to block melee, you can, and you can go even faster. So I think this guy, for me, I don't think he's necessarily S tier, although he might be S tier. The only reason I'm holding him from S tier is because these guys are just truly incredible. I think this guy's the best A tier character in the set for sure. The potential he has is unparalleled. He can really mess up an enemy that has a high quantity of people. So definitely pretty good. Let's see here. Battle Droid. Battle Droids. I know you can do some really useful things with Battle Droids, and I've talked about this before. They have their place, but to me, they're just D tier. Just kind of like a crappy shooter. And they have really bad stats for 4 anyways. But the whole point of a Battle Droid is, honestly, I feel like they should have less defense and cost 3. That'd be great. But they don't cost much. They're not supposed to, and they're really there just to kind of be fodder. You can get them buffed pretty nice with some easy commander effects, but they're D tier. The Battle Droid Sniper is a little tricky because for 10, if you compare him, for example, to like the Rebel Marksman, the Rebel Marksman's not that much more expensive, and he has accurate shot. This guy's accurate shot. That guy doesn't have heavy weapon. He has heavy weapon. And he has sniper. So it's like, okay, he's got the stuff to pinpoint who he wants to hit, but he's not going to hit anything, for one, because he has 5 attack, and his defense is terrible, so he'll just get wiped out. Of course, if you mix this guy with, Grievous and the officer, then his attack is much better. But I'm not a fan. I'm absolutely not a fan of these things. There's much better options than separatists to go for, especially since these have heavy weapon. Really holds them back to me. Chameleon droid. So we got 26. Okay, for 26 points, you got 60 hit points, 16 defense, and then this guy's got invisibility. So if you want to hurt this guy, you got to go right up next to him. You have to take the mines, and he's hard to catch because he's going to be using a wall climber. And so the problem with this guy that I have is he has not really any good offense. 6 attacks low, 20 damage is standard. So he doesn't have the offense. Really, just depending on people approaching you and getting hurt that way. So while I think that's awesome, I think people tend to just throw the Chameleon Droid in A tier. And I could understand if you do. I just feel like while he's fun, the invisibility's fun, the mines is fun. If someone just approaches him, like an adequate melee character approaches him, takes the 20 damage, big deal, and then he just kind of blows him up the next turn. So I think they're fun, they're very interesting, and they have their place. And you can do good things with them. If you mix them again with some easy fixes that are very common with the droid team, then they're going to be scary. So I think just in general they're B tier. Dirge Jedi Hunter, this guy might be S tier, but I am going to put him just slightly above Yoda. These two are both just edge of S. Like, they're so powerful. So Dirge Jedi Hunter, for 50 points, you have someone with solid stats. For a shooter, that's 50 points. You have triple attack, bounty hunter, Jedi hunter. You even have lightsaber defense. So if this guy's against Jedi, they're going to have a little harder time taking him out than other people will. And then if it's unique Jedi, he's going to do 90 damage to them and basically blow him up. Yeah, so I think these guys, against Jedi, he's just insane. And then he's the only character with regeneration 20, and he's never going to take a critical hit, so that's helpful. You can depend on that. And if this guy doesn't move, he's just going to be regenerating himself. So honestly, he doesn't have 110 hit points. You could argue he might have like 170 or something like that. So I think he's incredible. He's fantastic. And I'd have to double check if galloping attack interacts with attacks of opportunity. I don't know if I think it didn't, but I'd have to double check. But this guy's A tier. To me, the only thing that kind of holds him back is if he is in a situation. Well, does anything hold me back? Yeah, I don't know. If he's against an enemy of not too many unique characters, no Force users, then you really are missing out a lot on his power. But like for what he does, he's so powerful at what he does. I have to put him at A tier, top of A tier. But again, it's very easy. He could go up against a squad where half of these powers are irrelevant. And unfortunately, other characters, it's easy sometimes for some of these other characters to not run into those issues. But I'm still going to put him top of A tier just because, man, that is just so powerful against Jedi. It's pretty scary. So General Grievous Droid Army Commander. So this boy right here. So he is second in S tier. I'm not going to put him above this guy because he truly is busted and he's so strong. But this guy is the centerpiece of the droids, basically. For 57, the stats really aren't that great. But what he has going for him is, he's very strong against Jedi and melee. He can hold his own great against Jedi. He can shoot, which is always awesome. Triple's great, but his commander effect is just insane. I think this might be maybe the single best commander effect in the entire game. Yeah, it probably is. So specifically for droids, rangeless, any droid except any droid follower gets 4 attack, 4 defense, and twin attack. That's just 3 buffs that they're all amazing. So this guy basically makes any droid that you might think is not very good, he all of a sudden makes them crazy. Like the crab droid is crazy. Some of those guys with like triple attack are crazy. Like even an Octubar droid, which I think is terrible, becomes terrifying with General Grievous. The B3 battle droid, which is one of my favorite just characters in the entire game, is insane. So I think, and even like super battle droids and regular battle droids, especially when you mix this with the battle droid officer, which is they go together. You have to use both of them. It's just crazy. So I would like to put this guy top. I might even put him top of S tier, but This guy has the best commander effect. He makes the Separatists what they are. Without him, the Separatists they're kind of underpowered. So he's amazing. Heavy super battle droid. I think these guys are pretty solid. I do like that it's 14 points, but you got someone who's doing damage. Again, it's easy to give this guy twin attack and better stats. And then synchronized fire, works well with him as well. So I think this guy is definitely like a low B tier for sure. So let's see, where is that? It's this one. I'm going to just up below the Galactic Marine because I like what he pairs with. Yeah, definitely a decent version of the Super Battle Droid. I wish he didn't lose Charging Fire, but it's fine. IG 100 Magna Guard. I don't like these at all. I would much rather have the guards from Revenge of the Sith because they actually have bodyguard, and I want these. Being able to have bodyguard, even Revenge of the Sith for whatever it was, like 18, 20 points is awesome. But these guys, they're really just, I don't know, you just use them against Jedi. They're not guards. I really don't like these guys very much at all. And then my original tier list, I put them in C tier. I'm going to have to put these guys in D tier. I really don't like them. I'm not a fan at all. So it's just, they cost 16 points. Don't get me wrong. They have great powers. They really do. Like lightsaber resistance is good. They got good stats for a 16-point melee piece. Kind of. Electro Staff plus 10 is, extra damage against non-living enemies, making living enemies be activated. That's fine, but okay, this is too harsh. I'll put him just above the Knight since he actually has some cool powers going for him. But I don't know. I just prefer the bodyguard droids over these for using the bodyguard ability. Nemoidian Warrior. So again, solid stats for a shooter. At 16, they have accurate, but they're on the Separatists, and not a whole lot of Separatist stuff is going to help non-droids. So unfortunately for that reason, I'm going to have to put him down in C tier. But again, it's an alright piece. The fact that he's just a better version of the other Nemoidian soldiers, basically. So I'll put him at the very bottom of C tier just because I just don't feel like these types of guys have a lot of utility on the Separatists, but you can make them work. The Quarren Isolationist, I have no care for these characters. For 9 points, that's not bad stats, and he has melee reach 2, but again, it's the Separatists. It's not the right type of guy. Okay, Rocket Battle Droids. Again, these guys are overrated. They cost 6, so they're a little bit more than a Battle Droid. They get 3 more defense, 2 more attack, and they can fly. I don't really care about having flight, honestly, in this circumstance with these guys. I'm not a big fan. I'm just going to stick them probably just down below. I'd rather have a cheaper battle droid and just buff that thing rather than having these. So, unfortunately, rocket battle droids, they're not for me. Super battle droids, I am a fan of the standard super battle droid. I don't remember where I put him. I think in Revenge of the Sith I put him like B tier. I'm going to stick at bottom of B tier. I really like these. Just I love having charging fire. And again, it's very easy for Separatists to bump this to 10 attack, 20 damage, twin attack. And then the synchronized fire can just make that 16 attack maybe. So I'm a big fan of super battle droids. If you use them properly, they can be really scary with the right combinations and if you take advantage of their speed. But I think bottom of B tier is just fine. Techno Union Warrior. So the droid characters who combine fire with this character gain more attack. So he has synchronized fire, and he helps droids be more powerful with combined fire. These guys can be all right to mix 1 or 2 in your squad sometime, but I'm going to put these bottom, not quite bottom of C tier. I'll put them right down here. Yeah, if you mix maybe 1 of these in, you can make your droids, plus 10 damage if 1 or more droid characters combines fire with this character. So it's all right, I guess, in those circumstances, but I don't really care for it too much. A Qualish Warrior, plus 10 damage on a melee attack against enemy at half hit points or less. Interesting. This video is going to be just as long as my other ones now that I look at it. I've just spent more time talking about these. Let's see, Nemoidian Warrior, the Qualish Warrior. I'm going to stick him. Again, I'm not a fan of these. I'll probably take the Isolationist over him just because they're cheaper and have some more stats. I don't really care for these. Not my cup of tea, even for Fringe. So Ganact, I used to think he was cool for having rapport, but when I do the math, it just never works out. He has repair 10. He should have repair 20. Unfortunately for me, repair 10 doesn't get me excited. And regeneration 10 for me is not great when you only have 30 hit points. So for me, Ganact is a low on the totem pole. Not very cool. I think he even bottom. He's not D tier, not quite. But I am going to put him at the very bottom of C tier. Not my favorite. Human Soldier of Fortune. So for having Mercenary, he also has Deadeye, which works great with Mercenary. That's good. And he has solid stats, great defense. So for a shooter, this is not a bad mercenary. This really is not a bad mercenary character. He has things that help him improve his mercenary kind of dilemma. However, I think he's fine. So let's see, I probably put him in like mid C tier before. So I think for C tier, I like his stats as a shooter, and being able to have Deadeye can be helpful for what he's got. So I'll put him just below Ahsoka. I don't think Ahsoka's horrible. C tier is not horrible. It's just kind of like whatever. Mix it in for the rest of situations, right? IG-86 Assassin Droid. I really like these guys quite a bit, actually. So the stats are decent for a 17-point shooter. Opportunist is awesome. And then I like putting these with Separatists, because with Separatists, you can do a lot of good combinations. You can give them twin attack. You can give them better stats. So yeah, I like this guy. I definitely like these guys on that team. So I'm going to do B tier. They still are a low B tier. I prefer them over these for sure. Yeah, that's better. Oddball deserves to be higher. That's good. Yeah, right there. Fun units. Even by themselves, they're pretty decent, but mixing them with Separatists, you can do some fun things. Nelvanian Warrior. Very interesting character. So they don't cost that much. They're 9. They have melee reach, which is nice. So you can approach somebody, get close, but not too close. And then you have Mighty Swing. So the cool thing about the Nelvanian Warrior is I see him do mix with the Authorian Commander. You'll get the extra damage. You'll get much better attack to help fix this putrid attack. And he's got great defense. So it's going to be hard to take these guys down, and they only cost 9. And again, if you put them in the right combinations, it's pretty easy to do. You have melee reach 2, which is going to help with attack of opportunity situations. And then Mighty Swing is also kind of helpful for making melee reach 2 a little better, potentially. So I think I originally put this thing a little bit too low. I did put it too low. The attack is pretty bad. It really is. But for 9 points, sign me up for a melee piece that's that cheap. These guys totally look like Eagle Warriors from the Age of Empires franchise. It's one of my favorite video games, and they totally look like those. So shout out to anybody who knows what I'm referring to, but that's kind of what it reminds me of. I'm going to put these guys kind of high C tier. Again, they're not going to work in very many squads necessarily, but there's several they could work in. But I'm going to stick these guys probably right up top. High C tier, I think, sounds just fine for these. I love that high defense. Good combinations. It's just that bad attack, bad damage, definitely holds them back, even for a melee piece. And they only have 20 hit points, too, so one shot, they're dead. Trandoshan Scavenger, these guys, I don't like them very much. At least they don't have 20 hit points and have regeneration 10, like some of those other ridiculous ones, but I'm not a fan. In fact, I think I'm even going to put them down here. I think I'd even prefer this combination of these people down here. I prefer the Isolationist slightly. I'm not really a fan of these things. Not my cup of tea. Oda-Pound Warrior. Cool thing with these is for 14 points, they are ranged, they shoot, they have a lot of hit points, 50 hit points on a 14, 20 defense. Again, not great attack or damage. You can make it, I take that back. They do have melee attack. Yikes, that kind of holds it back for me a little bit. That's not what I expected. No, I'm not a big fan of this, so I'd even take the Montgomery Knight maybe, because it has slightly better. No, it doesn't really have all that much better stuff. That 10 damage isn't awesome, but they do have the hit points. Well, again, for 14 points, you can mix them up with the right stuff to make it a little bit more scary. So I'm going to put them up here. I think I like the fact that these guys cost 9. which is kind of fun. Let's see how much did it cost. So these guys also have good defense, but they have reach, which is cool. I'm going to put this guy 80-pound warrior. So because he's 14 points with great defense, so good survivability, great hit points, and he does have swing, you can put this guy in combinations to make him better. However, I'm going to stick him below Ahsoka. I'm going to put both of these people below Ahsoka, actually. I'm going to do him, I like him a little bit more, just slightly. Okay, Ventress, Separatist Assassin. So there's another Ventress as well. I think that's in Galaxy at War. Yes, I think so. I think we'll get to that one. So this Ventress, Separatist Assassin, pretty good. So her whole point really is just being alone and doing a ton of damage to somebody. And for 43 points, I think she does that pretty well. That's funny. She's one of the only people that actually says plus 12. That's funny. I think this character is actually from one of those map sets, those small map sets. So she's got decent stats. They're a little underpowered stats, just slightly for a 40 for melee, but that's comparing her to someone who doesn't have a lot of powers necessarily. So hit points is, that's fine. The thing that's going to help her get by, though, is stealth. So she's got stealth. That's going to help that survivability a lot for her to get to her targets and then unleash her damage. So she's got a lot of stuff going for her offensively, which makes her pretty insane. Yeah, pretty insane, actually. So you got Loner. So if she's on her own, you got fantastic attack. Then you have double and twin and whirling cleave, and these all play together. So if you're up against someone, you hit them 4 times, and if you kill them, then boom, you can move on with twin attack. You can move on with rolling cleave, attack twice on the next target, and then these all pair fantastic with Sith Rage. So to get 16 attack, 30 damage, do it 4 times, maybe more. That's pretty incredible. Yeah, I cannot complain. That is so fetching strong. So I think for her, I'm going to have to put her... I think for me, the only thing kind of holds her back is these characters above her are just a little bit better. I'm going to put her above, even though she's awesome. She makes clones amazing. Having cloaked is awesome. She can take care of herself. She does cost 50 points, so there is that to kind of be aware of. I might even bump her down just a little bit. I think I love what this guy can do in defensive positions with, force renewal, block, twin attack with Gemso. I think I like that just a little bit more than what she brings to the table. She's expensive, so I'll bump her down just a little bit, but she's so good. Ventress, yeah, I prefer these two over Ventress, but as a Separatist Assassin, she'll be doing you a lot of damage. Kind of reminds me of Darth Maul in some ways. I think Maul, though, just has better stats, pretty much. Luminara, Unduli, Jedi Master. So, pretty good for 40 points. Her stats are a little underpowered. Again, one thing I've noticed is that some of the earlier pieces will have a cost. They'll have lousy abilities, but they'll have good base stats. As you go on in time, the base stats will kind of come down a little bit, but they'll have lots of amazing abilities. So she's pretty good. So she's got Serestu Style herself when hit by an attack from a non-adjacent enemy. So again, this is where Serestu Style Mastery and Serestu Style Master stuff come in. So her Serestu Style, I think, is great. So when hit by a non-adjacent enemy, so basically anyone who's not next to her, it's basically just evade. Yeah, I think actually is the same thing as evade, as a matter of fact. Yeah, I think it's exactly the same. The only reason it's worded this way is so that Count Dooku can counter it. So synergy. So if you put this with Barriss, so she can do amazing attack, amazing defense. She can do the damage, with riposte and stuff, and then Barriss can heal her, which is awesome. So definitely if you put her and Barriss together, you're going to have a really good combination that can complement each other very well. And then again, like the older Luminara, she's got master speed to make her zip around and do some stuff. So I'm going to put her, let's see, should I put her in B tier? So she has limited force, but they're good powers, but it's limited. Serestu Style is great, but against melee people without Barriss, she's not a 40, in my opinion. But with Barriss, definitely a 40. So it's kind of dependent on Barriss. If you put these two together, like as a combined unit, they're both A tier, but kind of on their own. I'd say they're more like kind of B tier together, but they're really good, really good, and you have to use them together. Basically, that's what they're meant for. So, anyways, that's gonna wrap it up for Clone Wars. Really fun set. Definitely kind of surprised me. There's some really cool pieces in here. Characters like this, which I think are borderline S tier, very good A tier characters. Very underrated pieces such as him and these guys. And then you have 3 just completely kind of bogus, broken characters. However, I think he's critical to the Separatists, so he's necessary. He should get nerfed, and this guy's busted and should get nerfed. But all in all, fantastic set. So again, if you liked the video, please like, please subscribe. And yeah, please leave a comment as well. I appreciate people who've been leaving comments and subscribing to some of the recent videos. That's been great. And so after this set, there's going to be only 5 more left. And so that means we're going to be wrapping up the tier lists for these pretty soon here. So who knows, maybe in the distant future, if I'm still rolling up these, maybe I'll do updated tier lists where I maybe change things around based on updated opinion. But I think what I'll probably do after I do these is I may do videos just about certain types of characters, like, like Anakin Skywalkers or clone trooper types, things like that. So there's some of the ideas, or maybe other ideas I had is maybe like even just talking about like certain, jumping into maybe like mechanics of the game, strategies. Maybe even another one that I thought about as well is talking about custom characters that I'm making. So by the way, I will say when it comes to me and customs, I know that they've made a lot of V-sets. I look on Blue Milk, people make a lot of really interesting custom characters. And then I've even seen on some Facebook groups, some people, really talented people, make some really cool looking custom characters with custom cards, and they're all awesome. But my opinion with kind of everything beyond this is you can already see in the base game there's quite a bit of power creep. There really is. Like when you go from the first set to the last set, characters who cost 20, they if you put a character from that last set in the first set and they cost the same, you probably have to raise it up quite a lot. And the thing I don't like about a lot of custom characters and a lot of like the virtual sets that they've made is the power creep is out of control. Out of control. So basically it makes almost even any of the base sets useless except for like a small percentage of characters. So my approach for making custom characters really comes down to just try to make it generally balanced when it comes to kind of like the general power level of the base sets, because I think that's the way to make it interesting. And if you just do power creep forever, then to me that's not very fun or enticing. But anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. I'll get to that stuff in the future. But anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.